Okay, Adam, are you ready to get into some calls?
Absolutely.
All right. Why don't we start talking to Red? Red is calling in from Ohio, and Red wants to talk about a conspiracy about how the government has a cure for cancer, but they won't release it since they make money off it. Red, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, nice to talk to both of you tonight. I hope you both are doing well.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
The start of this is, I heard this from my coworkers mostly. I, of course, am skeptical of this conspiracy theory, but I wanted to call in when you were on and get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
Usually this coworker isn't really a conspiracy theorist type person, from what I can tell. But I do know that she unfortunately had someone close to her that died of cancer. And we were talking about cancer one day at work, and that's when they started saying, I believe that the government has a cure for the cancer, but they won't release it because they make money off of it. And I told them that what doesn't make sense, because I don't think that all of those people in there would just be silent about something as big as that. That's a pretty big secret to keep. And she responded, well, you don't, she says it's not per se the doctor's fault. They're not in on it. It's, I guess, presumably the government. She didn't really specify who was keeping this secret. And she says you don't really understand unless you have somebody close to you who's had cancer. So I kind of just dropped the conversation at that. It probably wouldn't have went well if I kept pushing it, but I just wanted to call in and ask you, how do I refute this? Because I don't know any other talking points really.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had a really good first question. There's like a million ways to go with that subject, right? But you had a very good first question, which was like, how do they keep that sort of secret? Because, and you asked, okay, well, who in the government is keeping this secret, right? It's like, that's another great question. One person can keep a secret. Apart from that, I don't know. These sort of things get out. Like, just take a look at what's happening in the US right now. With all of this, stuff around Trump's indictment and things like this. Like, can you imagine if this was like attempting to be kept secret? It would have been impossible. And the number of people who would be involved in a potential, like, discovering a cure for cancer, for the government to have it and then having to be silent about it. Like, that's a really good point that I think you made first off. Second thing is, like, from a medical perspective, I immediately have thoughts about even the topic, because a cure for cancer to me doesn't make any sense, because cancer is sort of a category of disease. It's not one specific disease, right? So it's like saying, I have a cure for infection. And you say, on the surface, you're like, okay, a cure for infection, sure. But then you're like, well, wait, what kind of infection? Like bacteria, a specific bacteria? We know that there's certain antibiotic resistance that exists, right? So does it cure all bacterial infections? What about like fungal infections? And what about viruses? Like, is it the same cure that works on all of these different things? And so treating cancer as like one disease, I think, shows a real lack of understanding of what exactly cancer is. And then, I mean, there's this whole idea of like, oh, the government has this, but they don't want to release it because they make money off of cancer. And I would argue that that's probably not true, right? Because generally people with cancer die of cancer in a relatively short window, which is unfortunate, obviously. And apart from some particular very well-treated cancers, it's generally a terminal thing unless it's completely cured. So you can cure certain cancers with like surgery. You can cure certain cancers with combinations of surgery and chemo and radiation. Cures for particular cancers exist right now, but a catch-all cure for cancer obviously doesn't exist, and there's variation within cancers. The more interesting question, I think, is if you look at where a lot of money is made right now, it's not in cancer drugs. It's in things like blood pressure drugs and cholesterol drugs and lifestyle drugs like Viagra, right? Like those are multi-billion-dollar drugs because they're treating something that is not going to necessarily kill the person. It's something that the person needs to take every day to sort of extend their life or improve their quality of life, this sort of thing, right? So cancer is not a good, to me, candidate for a like conspiracy-based healthcare situation where they're withholding some treatment because they're already making too much money off of it. I think that's I think that's not well thought through. But what do you think, Adam? You have any thoughts on this particular conspiracy?
Well, I'm not sure about the US. I live in Australia myself, and I would find it very, very hard, especially that in Australia we do. So all cancer patients, they go to hospitals and get treatments under the Medicare system. So if anything, I would say that cancer is a massive cost on the government, not that they make money out of you. That's actually quite the opposite. So if there is any potential for a cure, I would find the government really putting all their heart in to get that. And also that there has been, I read recently that there is backing you up on cancer is a category like infection. There is a medicine that was announced lately, specifically targeting bowel cancer, and they said that it's a breakthrough in medicine because this particular medication has so far 100% success. They are going through the placebo testing at the moment to see if this percentage really adds up and it's true. But as I said, yes, it's targeting bowel cancer specifically. So the question should be raised: what type of cancer they found cure for? And also in the light that, assuming that this story is true, here we can say that there are some announcements when potential medication or cure has been found for bowel cancer. It is being announced. So why do we assume that other cancer medication is hidden or they're conspiring to hide another cure? So that would be my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, and I think I know. The paper you're talking about and the drug you're talking about. So this was like a paper that I think was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is like the biggest medical journal in the world. And if I'm thinking of the right thing, even that cure that they found is only for a very specific subtype of rectal cancer, I think, or colorectal cancer, or something like that. It's not like a silver bullet miracle shot, you know? And I think that, frankly, those sorts of cures just don't exist, right? Like, real life is just more complicated. And it would be great if we could figure out one easy way to cure cancer. But, like, I don't know if you know, Adam, or if you know, Red, but I recently did my PhD in biomedical engineering on treatments for colorectal cancer. And so I even came into my PhD thinking that, the thing I was working on, it's so promising. It's going to be like a miracle drug. It's going to kill all the cancer. And like, it's just not that easy. It's more complicated. So, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of ways you could go with this conversation, Red. What do you think about what we've said so far? Anything useful?
Think about the different types of cancer before as a talking point. I just kind of, I guess, to do what other people do, is kind of clump all cancers all together. But in hindsight, I guess that's not really fair to do when there's such variety in each of them. There was another talking point that the coworker did say to me, and she told me that if they could make a vaccine so quickly for COVID, but they can't find a cure for cancer in all these years that we've been researching. That was another reason why she believed that the cure for cancer was being hidden, which it doesn't sound like a strong talking point, but again, I know that talking about cancer was something emotional for her, so I didn't want to press her on the matter.
Well, what do you think about that, Red? What would you have said to her if if you weren't worried about hurting her feelings?
I'm not sure, honestly. This isn't the first time I've heard somebody say that. Actually, it was in the opposite. If they can't find a cure for cancer, why can't we expect them to make a vaccine so quickly? That's the other way I've heard it. But I guess it's kind of two sides of the same coin. Is one's more complex than the other. I mean,
and one is more specific than the other, right? Like you're on the one hand, you're saying, well, we figured out a vaccine, which is not a cure, right? It's a preventive and morbidity severity reducing medication for one specific type of infection, which we now know has variable effectiveness across different strains of the same infectious agent, right? Like your Delta vaccine is different from your Omicron vaccine and all this sort of thing. So they're saying that we're able to treat one, but we're not able to cure an entire family of cancers. Like, I think it's almost the same fallacy that's going on where it just sort of, to me, betrays a lack of understanding of what's going on and what cancer really is, right? And it's not an easy thing. And I only know this because I have extensive training in this. But yeah, cancer is a complex disease, and even two colon cancers, like a colon cancer from the right side of the colon versus a cancer from the left side of the colon, both act differently. And even within a single tumor, there could be lots of different genetic variations and things like that. And it just makes it a very complex disease to treat. But I think you have, obviously, I think you have the right instincts, Red, on this. And I think you're approaching it in a good way. And I'm also glad to hear that you are being considerate of your coworkers' feelings when you're addressing it. It's always good to make sure you don't come off as an asshole, right?
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add, Adam?
Not really. No, I agree with the last thing you said, and I was thinking, well, obviously you're the PhD on medical science here, but the first thing I had in mind is like, we cannot compare a virus that we can create a vaccine for with a disease that is not triggered by external factors. It's actually the body attacking itself in a way, or the cells behave in a different way. So it's not a virus that we can go and create a cure for. Thus, it's a much more complicated issue. So yeah, I agree with.
Yeah, it's true.
I cannot articulate it as you put it.
Yeah, it's true. What do you think, Red?
I think I have a lot of research to do on these points you've been talking about, because I do find this all very interesting, and I want to be able to form my talking points a lot better. So I thank you very much for helping me find some more points to look into and possibly refuting this. I probably won't refute it with this person because I feel like they're still pretty emotional about what happened to their close relatives with cancer.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody else along the line I could probably help convince or help see and begin to have a skeptical mind in it.
Yeah, probably still a bit raw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the call. For anyone who's interested, Red, you included, there's a great book called The Emperor of All Maladies, I think, which is all about cancer and I think it would give you a good understanding of sort of what cancer is and what people have been doing, what scientists and doctors have been doing over sort of the course of history to treat it. But again, thanks very much for your call, Red. That's a very interesting thing, and I'm always happy to nerd out a little bit about medicine and cancer when I get the excuse to do it.